Hey Star fam, Michael with oneskyastrology, and we're going to take a look at this lunar cycle. A new lunar cycle starting on the 9th of July 2021, maybe the 10th of July, depending on where you are in the world. On this channel I make videos about true sidereal astrology, also known as constellational astrology, and we're using the living skies as opposed to an approximate zodiac. The true sidereal astrology means actual, as opposed to like an approximate zodiac where all the signs have 30 degrees. They're all like even sized. What we do in this school of astrology is a little different in that we're using the actual size and location of the constellations. So you'll see that this month, July's new moon takes place in the stars of Gemini. So a lot of people are talking about this as it's a Cancer new moon, but I'm just showing you pretty clearly why siderealists will talk about this is being in Gemini. And for more information, feel free to check out the page down here, oneskyastrology.com. I have a nice write-up on the history of astrology and just why I do what I do. So we see when we look, everything is pretty well where it has been. Uranus still transiting Aries, Eris and Neptune in Pisces, Jupiter in Aquarius, Saturn in Capricorn, and Pluto in Sag. So all of this has been pretty much the way it's been for the last couple months. The personal planets are Mercury moving through Taurus, the North Node still on Aldebaran here, Sun and Moon again in Gemini, and Mars and Venus already in early Leo. If we look, we see that Cancer is a relatively small constellation by degrees. It takes up about 20 degrees of the sky. And this lunar cycle late in Gemini will, commencing late in Gemini, this will be our sort of Cancer phase of the zodiac too, because the next new moon will actually take place in early Leo. So in other words, we won't have a Cancer new moon this year. We won't have a lunar cycle that's initiating with the energies of Cancer. We'll switch straight from Gemini to Leo. So switching over to 2D view here, we've got the new moon, July 9th, and here we are looking at it from the sort of top down. There's a new moon in Gemini, and Gemini is about two things. Inwardly, it's about the organization of information, how we take in, organize, and how we teach, how we learn, how we teach, how we communicate is the second thing. So the first thing is the organization of information, that's inwardly, and the second thing is the communication of information to others. And Gemini, the stars of all of Gemini, the whole set of stars in the constellation cast a light which has always been associated with writing, thinking. It's speaking, learning, communication, the whole general kind of academic thing. And for all its learnedness, Gemini actually has a little bit of a superficial streak. It's got a tendency to express in dualities, a tendency to express in polarities. So there's this sort of like Jekyll and Hyde reputation that Gemini people have, but they just, and like we all do, have two sides, and their experience of that is kind of dual or polarized. It's kind of an either or thing in the Gemini case. We'll see this month the qualities of Gemini, which are about polarity and duality, exacerbated by an opposition to Pluto. Pluto in Sagittarius is It is making a wide opposition. If you notice the angles, you'll see down here that this one is 7 degrees, almost 8, and that's not a very close opposition, but what it will lead to is an exacerbation of those dualistic qualities, because Pluto's very dual. Pluto's always expressing in extremes and in the language of polarity. Pluto's actually a dual planet in that Pluto has a moon that orbits it, but they sort of orbit each other. The center of gravity is somewhere out in the middle of them. So it's Pluto, Sharon, is literally a planet of duality, a dual planet. And Gemini is very much about opinions, and this is something that Sagittarius brings out in it, a sort of like a tendency to jockey for who might be right, who might be hip to the truth, who might be having the right way to do things, or the right opinion on things. Gemini is very logical. Gemini is very literal, and Gemini is very cynical. Gemini is a little bit of a trickster with that two-faced quality. It's a little bit of a representation of how things might be one way on the surface, but then under the surface they may manifest a whole different set of qualities and characteristics. As in addition to the ones that you see, there's this sort of a deeper hidden world. So I mean, even in the sense that, like, Gemini is about two truths. It's an apparent truth and then what's really going on, but it's also about superficiality. Is in and of itself a duality. And just like the idea that even though Gemini is very logical and literal, it's also kind of a trickster. That's about duality in and of itself. So Gemini is a little bit of a self-contradictory sign. It's one of the things that makes it hard to understand, hard to pin down sometimes. In general, a new moon in Gemini is going to initiate a cycle that's going to be great for learning. It's going to be great for communicating. It's going to be great for teaching. The dispositor of the new moon, Mercury, is in Taurus, and it's making trine to Jupiter, which Jupiter trines are always indicating blessing, indicating growth, indicating positivity. There could be positive growth. There could be beneficial growth in our self-esteem. There could be beneficial growth in our self-talk, the way we're relating to ourself. And we could try new and uplifting things. There could be growth that arose out of prior upheaval, and all of this is ultimately expressing in the language of blessings. With Jupiter trine from Aquarius may give us a desire to think in new ways. May give us a desire to initiate new patterns. Around the way we deal with ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves and relate to ourselves. And I want to go back. I know it's not the closest relationship. First of all, the new moon is complicated by a lot of relationships. If you look down, you'll see it's just a little bit of a spider web this month. But when we isolate the main ones, we have an opposition to Pluto, a trine to Neptune, and a sextile to Uranus, as well as the square. It's involved with Eris as well. And one of the reasons that the Eris square and the Pluto opposition become more relevant is because Eris and Pluto are very closely aligned. They're at 0 degrees 58 minutes. They're approaching the fourth contact out of 5 in their square, and they're approaching a close angle of relationship, which makes Eris Pluto just kind of one of the closest and most major things happening in the sky. So since Eris Pluto is squaring again, going exact again, this becomes relevant. And if you remember the January 2021 new moon video, if you've been following this channel for a while, or you just happen to catch my January new moon video, I talk about Pluto and Eris and the planetary cycle from their conjunction and initiation at the time of the 7 Years' War and the American Revolution, all through their contacts, their major contacts around, and until now we're in the waning square phase, because Eris moves actually slower than Pluto. So Pluto is the approaching planet. And we're wrapping this up. So it's been a very interesting cycle, and it's made more interesting by the fact that this degree of the sky, right here, where Pluto is approaching and in conjunction with right now, is Pluto's placement at the origin of the United States. So if you ran a U.S. natal chart, like, I don't know, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, July 4th, 1776, I believe that's when the Constitution was ratified. My American history is awful, but there's a couple dates that are generally given for the origin of the United States, and they're all within a ballpark which places Pluto right around the Sagittarius Capricorn border, which means that Pluto's coming home, and the United States is about to see its Pluto return. So that's kind of a major big deal, and we've seen this Eris Pluto square with Pluto in the orb of its return be particularly impactful in the United States. For example, the third contact happened within a month of the insurrection at the Capitol. It's been a powerful cycle, and it's been particularly impactful, stateside. So just something to keep your eye on, because these patterns, this new moon in Gemini opposite Pluto in Sagittarius, Pluto square to Eris, well, what that indicates is that collectively what we're all experiencing, what we're all sort of the influence that we're all under, this could be very ripe for debate. This could be very ripe for, like, again, jockeying for who's right is one thing, but when we're T-squared by Eris, there could be a lot of confusion in Pisces. There could be a lot of chaos signified by Eris, and there could be a lot of strife and negative feelings generated by getting into arguments, getting into anytime you approach somebody and you think that you know what's going on and they don't, or anytime you try to proselytize to someone. Pluto in Sagittarius is famous as a proselytizer. Will try to convert. It'll try and get other people to think what it thinks and agree with it. It wants to basically bring people into the fold of its own view, and so Eris Pluto's strong, and the sun and moon conjoin in relation to that, and the relationship is likely to generate charge of the nature of duality, Pluto, extremism, Pluto, depth, Pluto. And the ingredients are opinions, debate, diametrically opposed expressions of personal truth, polarity, dichotomy, cynicism, and holier than thou attitudes really have an opportunity to express themselves at this time. So the shadow side becomes revealed too by Eris, so we have to really watch that, and we may see many people getting caught up in potentially volatile forms of communication, really very charged expressions of polemic. The main support to Sun and Moon is expressed in terms of this trine to Neptune, which I see, very clearly as a kind of Neptune in Pisces, which is why it's very clear. Neptune in Pisces is very transcendental. It's very much beyond the boundaries that debate and diametrically opposed points of view come out of, because Neptune and Pluto is like from the ocean where everything is one and all is love and so on. And the strength, the trine, is actually supporting the sun and moon, supporting the conscious self, supporting us to learn, to talk, to teach, to engage each other, and in a discovery of information and data, Gemini. But this will actually alleviate, keeping the Neptune point of view, keeping the highest spiritual point of view is actually likely to be somewhat helpful in alleviating the tendency to take like a ground level position, like a you know, someone else down on the ground, you know, from here, you know, it's a 6, and from over there it's a 9, and we can argue about which is which. But from a bird's eye view, from that Neptunian point of view, you know, you can see like, oh, that's child's play. That's a silly little argument. So we want to be in this way. If you ask me, that's going to be how I'm going to establish myself. Looking at July 9th and 10th, new moon. I'm really going to be rooted in the idea that, oh, okay, so there may be real strong differences of opinion here. There may be extremely opposed points of view, and each one can be saying, oh, this is the truth. No, this is the truth. But I'm going to keep my head above those waters. Another support to sun and moon is Uranus, and Uranus in Aries is aloof. Uranus in Aries is also sort of above the waters, above the fray. And the best thing about a Uranus sextile is it reminds us to take that bird's eye view, to see how all the patterns fit together into a greater pattern, not to get caught up in, oh, this smaller pattern might be better than that smaller pattern. It's just, no, it's all part of a bigger pattern. So we have that support at this time. And I think the wisest use of this configuration would be to encompass the vast array of viewpoints that might emerge at this time and become, you know, prominent, maybe centered at this time. We have religious, philosophical, social, political, all kinds of points of view. And just know that things are charged right now with chaos and with a sort of divisiveness. And we can work with any urge to take any side in any issue. We can work with those urges as they come up, rather than getting pulled up the river by the hook in our jaws. We like take a position, you know, you've bit the hook, you're getting dragged. Instead, to stay aloof, to stay aware. You know, these worms have hooks. This is highly volatile, and some sides are righteous, some sides are for the benefit of others, and some sides are really opportunistic or for the benefit of self. And all of this is going to be something we have the opportunity to examine in this month, in this time, starting July 9th or 10th, because this is going to be the flavor. This is going to be what's, you know, the language of Gemini and Sag and these alignments. It's going to be likely to be what's expressing itself. Where do we want to take sides? Where are we drawn naturally to take sides? Who are we against? Who do we define ourselves against? But instead of getting caught up in that, we can take that Neptune-Uranus approach if we remember, if we can lean in and stay above that and just explore in ourselves, hopefully even undo some of our habitual conditioning around it. Mars and Venus are actually conjoined in Leo, which is nice. Could give things a certain sense of adventure, or could heighten our kind of animal magnetism. But we do see this in the same degree of next month's new moon. So we have a sort of like internal logic here, sort of like you know, it's like a precursor to some of the energies that we'll see more strongly next month. And we also see that they relate to Saturn-Uranus. Now, the Saturn-Uranus square is something that last month the moon related to very precisely. And for more information on that, you can check out that June 2021 video. It's got an especially technological bent, the Saturn-Uranus. And I think what I noticed most last month was just the movement towards disclosure. Actually, I had made some statements that it could be some strong like AI kind of vibes because the moon is very conscious. But I think what we ended up seeing is this powerful wave of UFO disclosure and beyond like Freedom of Information Act requests being granted, we're seeing like government bodies come out and start to get honest with people about their experience. So that's pretty interesting. We have Mars and Venus resonant with that energy for the initiation of the July cycle. And again, the new moon is always the kind of stamp, the kind of brand, and it's going to color the whole cycle. So I spend a little extra time on it. Venus opposite Saturn makes it hard to have loving relationships with just about anyone. Saturn in Cap is strong, and Mars opposed to Saturn, especially Saturn in Capricorn, is famous for frustration, anger, just being kind of stifled, stymied in your endeavors. And the combination doesn't actually bode well for debates. So with regard to the whole Gemini and the whole Gemini Sagittarius opposition, Pluto there, I would just say, even if nobody else pops up in our life to kind of play the role of antagonist, we have the potential here. We can actually be our own worst enemy. So taking care really to lean into that self-love, self-appreciation that Taurus offers us, where Mercury is, dispositor of the new moon. The energies of self-appreciation can be strong, as mentioned with that trine to Jupiter, but also here there can be parts of our conscious experience, especially around it could be relationship, it could be relationship with ourself in Leo, it certainly could be relationship with others. And with Mars and Venus, it could be just general like social connectedness, flirtatiousness, romance, dating. It could be anything along that spectrum. But opposed to Saturn in Capricorn, likely to meet up with some obstacles there, a little bit of frustration. And that's the general template. That's there's a lot going on here that I glossed that I'm not going to talk about because it's kind of secondary and tertiary to that. The lunar nodes are on Antares and Aldebaran, so we do still have this kind of like powerful signature, and we're emerging out of this eclipse season. So any information that we might have gleaned last month about how to be growing, how to be evolving, how to be moving through our world, this is when we're going to want to start to implement it. So it's a great time to strategize. It's a great time to spend time in the world of thoughts and ideas. All of this will be strengthened. It's a great time to engage ourselves and watch. Just watch where we get caught. Where we get caught in like, oh, I'm opposed to that. I am against X. This could really come up, and like I said, the best thing to do is to really take that high road, take that high view, and not get caught up, especially in points of view that have even been like manufactured. So now we're going to move on to the waxing moon, the first quarter moon on the 17th of July, and whenever we have a new moon opposed and squared something, or a new moon T squared, looking at the stress points of the cycle, the two squares and the opposition, the full moon and the waxing quarter, these are like the action points of the cycle, the main dynamic. These are the high energy points of the cycle, because that's what a square is. A square is like when the dynamic tension like reaches its fullest. But whenever you have a body square and opposite the new moon, they are going to pop up throughout the cycle is significant. And we do have Pluto here. And for the waxing quarter moon, we do see a grand cross, a kind of mystic cross. And the waxing quarter talks about the emergence of the cycle. So what kind of things are likely to emerge as we move into the fullness of the cycle, when we start to see, well, how is this really going to express itself? Well, moon opposite Eris, and moon is opposite Eris very closely. This is a very tightly wound grand cross. You can see that sun and moon are 16 minutes from exact, and that sun and moon are 30 minutes from exact to Pluto. So this whole thing is like very tightly knit, and of the nature of pretty much what we were just discussing, except with the Pisces Virgo axis, you bring in the added angle of like, now we have an opposition between the right brain Pisces and the left brain Virgo, between intuition and what I feel and what I think and what I want to be true, and the quality of like even the possibility of deluding myself with what I just believe is true to suit my own, it's just to suit whatever kind of whim Pisces might entertain, any and all of them. No disrespect, but Pisces is a little unhinged. It's literally beyond boundaries. And then you have Virgo, which is the left brain, the logical. Everything must make rational sense, and it's just as brutal, just as limited as Pisces on its own. What the two of them need is each other, but when we have the opposition, we can really have, especially in the conditions such as this lunar cycle presents, which is this sort of like debate kind of Gemini and Sagittarius in opposition will always get interested in like what's true, what's really true. The sun moon opposite Pluto will get into like polarizing that, and we'll go back and forth on it. And Eris opposite the moon can actually get very involved and get its feelings hurt, trying to prove points about who's right, trying to prove points about who is true and who's false, who has false info, false views. And it's really the main thing I see here. The sun has moved into Cancer, which makes moon in Gemini, moon in Virgo its ruler, and Mercury in Gemini is then dispositor of moon. So in a dispositor chain, we still have Mercury kind of ruling the main points of the chart. I mean, yeah, we have Neptune at home, unruled. We have Saturn at home, unruled. Almost everything else is going to trace back up to Mercury and Gemini. So very mercurial signature. Again, a great time to learn, to engage, to communicate, but just don't get caught up in it, in the momentum of the flow of argument and differing points of view. There's always someone out there with a different point of view. There's always someone who thinks they're right and you're wrong. It doesn't matter what you think. You could be totally right, and someone will come and get in your face with their finger and no, it's like this. And it's just not taking it personally, but do take it and learn from it. Now we're looking at the full moon, friends, and we're on the 23rd of July, 2021. we see the full moon conjoined to Saturn, and we see it conjoined to Pluto right on that Cap-Sag cusp. There's the potential to meet limitations here with Saturn. There's the potential to take responsibility throughout the stars of Capricorn and with Saturn at home, a sort of radical responsibility for our own emotional security, for our own emotional stability. And where the sun is in Cancer is going to be very concerned. Cancer is a set of stars that reflects a deep concern with emotional security. And this idea of taking radical responsibility for ourselves is probably the most uplifted expression of a moon with Pluto in Capricorn with Saturn at home. Especially because when it comes to who's ruling the luminaries now, Saturn rules Moon and Moon rules Sun. So Mercury is no longer ruling the chart, but actually Saturn is sitting at the top of the most important dispositor chain. So this does become a little heavier, a little more serious, a little more about taking stock of have I been living up to my responsibilities? Have I been persevering? Have I been patient? Have I been doing the things, doing the important things in spite of any obstacles that I may have faced? Have I been persevering? These are the qualities that Saturn likes, and these are the qualities that Saturn smiles on. So when we find ourselves under Saturn's influence, the best thing we can do is to just kind of buckle down, kind of get serious and make it an offering to Saturn, our endeavor. This could be an influence that inspires us to take impeccable care of ourselves. That would really be ideal. Or it could bring an influence. It could be an influence that brings crisis, that kind of brings us to that point of realizing that we need to take better care of ourselves. But we can harness Pluto Moon energy to transform inwardly. This is really important because Pluto's transformation and the moon is our inner world. So we can really, even though, moon is with, 2 malefics and, we can always lean into the positive expression of this. We can even harness the Eris energy here with moon square to Eris and Eris T-squaring a Pluto-Mercury opposition. We can lean into that because Eris is really about working inwardly to love our demons, to incorporate, to bring into the fold of our wholeness anything we may have othered or anything we may have cut off from ourselves, any qualities about ourselves that we've shoved into the shadow of our psyche. We can bring them back. And Eris T squares the sun and Eris T squares the sun and moon here too. We have a sun square Eris and Pluto and moon and Mercury. So all of this is coming under the shadow of Eris, if you will, and the need to do that shadow work and look at where we have, split ourselves, where we have isolated parts of ourselves and othered those, shoved them down, refused to accept them into the wholeness of ourselves, because that is going to be exactly where, in the outer world, other people's opinions are going to snag us. They're going to get us. That those things in ourself that we haven't dealt with and admitted and accepted and brought into the fold of our wholeness and our acceptance of ourselves, those are the things that when other people exhibit them, they drive us crazy. And without further ado, I want to move on to the waning moon. And we're now at the last quarter moon, 31st of July. we see Moon with Uranus here in Aries, so we can't escape the T-square. It's the aspect of the month. We have T-squares. We have a Saturn, Sun, Mercury T-square. Saturn in Capricorn, Sun, Mercury in Cancer. So again, this is a chance to initiate new growth, new cycles. Uranus in Aries, around taking radical responsibility. Saturn in Capricorn, total responsibility. For Cancer, Sun, Mercury, our own sense of security, of emotional well-being, of wholeness, of our self-relationship and what we offer ourselves. Taking responsibility for that, radical responsibility. Radical meaning root here, down to the core, down to like a 0 point, like, oh, I'm looking to give myself what I need. I'm not out there looking for it from someone else. Like, love me, take care of me, feed me. And not that that's inappropriate to all stages of life, because when we're young, it's very appropriate that we need love, that we need food, that we look to our parents and to other loved ones in that way. But as we grow older, it's inevitable that we come to a point in our life where we have to provide ourselves with that self-love. We have to cook our own dinner, and we have to take care of ourselves whether other people are doing that or not. So in order to combat codependency, we have the Saturn Capricorn Sun Cancer connection, that relationship. It has the potential to create difficulties, and even those difficulties are going to be pushing us to take emotional responsibility for ourselves, to take root level radical responsibility for our own sense of self-love, self-care, emotional security and well-being. And with Moon and Uranus in Aries, we may be empowered here to initiate new patterns of thought, new patterns of self-relation, new patterns of emotionality. Moon. Cancer, Capricorn, and Aries all initiate new patterns. So even if this month has been a brutal month of you arguing with everyone, and you realize everyone has a different opinion, and no one can see things your way, and nobody likes you, and everybody hates you, and you feel like going and eating worms or whatever, take that as a springboard and make the leap, make the quantum leap into, again, taking care of yourself and looking at the situation not as what can others do for me, or what can I do for others. Really, you may or may not want a return on that, but just, and ask the question that this chart is pointing to, which is, what can I do? How can I take care of myself here? And Uranus in Aries is excitable. So with Moon here, we may feel a little anxiety. We may also, with this square to Saturn, feel our limitations. We may, for any reason, Saturn in Capricorn, feel our own personal limitations. And this, truth be told, this cycle, as we're looking at the last quarter now, we've looked at the whole cycle, and before we look at the next one, I want to say this could be a difficult cycle. This could actually be a little bit of a rite of passage here for passengers on this mothership we call Earth. And I think we really may see in ourselves and in others some of the aspects we want least to look at, some of the things we like the least, and we may see people really vehemently disagreeing with each other, and they may be disagreeing not just on like details and minutia, but on like what is truth, capital T, what is right, capital R. And these are like big deal. These are big deal stuff, like major hook. There's major hooks here that we can get caught up in, like, oh, that's about truth and rightness. Well, everyone cares about that, and then you may too, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the medicine of this cycle, the best advice I could give is to take the high road as far as taking that Neptunian point of view, going back to the idea that the new moon is trine to Neptune in Pisces. And taking that kind of beyond boundaries point of view of all is one, to circumvent the impulse to join in any kind of, you know, diametric conversation, any kind of like my side versus their side that could emerge. Even to take side in like a family, like neighborhood, a city, a state, a national, like any kind of issue, even a planetary dispute. You know, those opportunities are likely to be prominent during this cycle. And it would almost be like saying the best use of the influence of this cycle would be to take a break from trying to convince anyone of anything, truthfully, and just watch the different sides make their points while trying to accept that other people's opinions are as real to them as what you believe is to you. So just respecting everybody's points of view as real and valid, even if they're just subjective, even if they're just that person's, that's okay. Taking the time to get universal in our thinking. You know, people who have the option to tune in to that Neptunian dimension and rise above the impulse to turn someone to your side, or to convince someone that they're wrong, or to just, you know, shame or shun or make someone feel bad for believing the nonsense. Just, there are better options. There are better options here that I recommend. And then looking forward to the next new moon. So this is the next new moon, August 8th, 2021, and this is going to be fun. We have a new moon. We'll look over this next month a lot more closely. We have all the personal planets in Leo, which, as some of you know, is definitely my favorite sign. And we have them all direct. So we're moving personal planets moving direct through Leo, and we've got them set up in relationship to some major players here, all of which are moving retrograde. And yeah, so we're, and this is highlighted by a very close Pluto-Eris square, where we're now down to about 17 minutes approaching. And yeah, we do have that new moon in relation to Saturn-Uranus. So we have it opposing Saturn, T² by Uranus. And yeah, this is going to be a very powerful, very impactful next new moon. So we're moving towards, as we wind down the energy of this cycle, as we wind that down, we're going to want to kind of brace ourselves, prepare ourselves for all the intense Leo energy. There's a lot of good to Leo. We'll go over that next month. There's a lot of bright light, long shadow. That's the expression. There's a lot of shadow to Leo, and we'll go over that. August is going to be very Leonine for everybody. And very much in opposition to what's happening out there. So it's going to be very interesting. Be very, very interesting. All right, my friends. Trying to get through this a little more quickly. I really appreciate everybody, but trying not to drag you along for an hour journey through each video. I think this month I cut the time down a little while still staying on all the major points. And I just thank you for being on this journey with me, for staying attuned to the star knowledge. I thank you for your support, and please like, subscribe, and come join the Sidereal Revolution on Facebook. That is all for now. Ciao.